Hi, everyone. Welcome back for this week. I'm going to let people filter in as Caroline lets them in from the waiting room. We'll start at 7:01 because I don't want to keep you all too long. Just a reminder that in order to be counted as present, you have to have your camera on, unless you have told me otherwise already. Can't count your vote if you do not have your camera on for the entirety of this meeting. Welcome to Susan Eichling.
It's
She's going to be our guest speaker. Yeah. Sorry, Eichling. Cool. I'm glad you're here. That means we can go ahead pretty quickly. We're still waiting on a few folks, but I will just start with the minutes and then we can move on to our guest speaker. So with that, does anyone have any corrections to the previous Senate's minutes? All right, there being no corrections, the minutes are approved as written. Ms. Eichling, the floor is yours now. Is there anything you would like us to share screen for?
No, I'll just talk. Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Susan Eichling. I am the Assistant Director of the Face-to-Face Speaker Forum, which is out of the Office of the Vice President in the University Advancement. So I'm excited to be part of the team planning this new signature speaker series for the sake of Wake Forest and for Winston-Salem. And I'll back up and just give a little context. So I have been working on plans for this program for about 2 years now. My supervisor and I, Sue Henderson, she's my executive director. We've been formulating what a new signature speaker series could be for the campus. So in March, right before the pandemic struck, we announced the plans for a new program, but we obviously had to shift like most people did. Just our program seeks to engage students, faculty, and staff at Wake Forest, along with those in the community, whether or not they have an affiliation with Wake Forest. So we were looking to, in normal times, plan an in-person season of events where people can anticipate the events, and we have a subscriber base. We're selling tickets to our program, and the goal of that is to fundraise for student scholarships, but students will always be able to attend for free. So our in-person events will have a student-only event with a guest speaker prior to the keynote, and then students can claim a limited number of free tickets to the keynote event. And we're seeking to have our events span a variety of subject areas. So we will always bring speakers that represent a variety of disciplines and viewpoints. We have 4 pillars to our program, as we call them. And we always hope that they represent each pillar, or we represent each pillar throughout each of our seasons. So the pillars are political affairs, arts and culture, social justice and global issues, and business and innovation. So we had announced our program in early March 2nd, actually. Our season 1 events were supposed to be, well, they still are, but they're just delayed now. But we are going to have on September 1st, Colin Powell and Madeleine Albright, former secretaries of state. And then we were going to have Yo-Yo Ma on October 14th and Malcolm Gladwell on January 26th. Now, Malcolm Gladwell is still on at this point for January 26th, but we have rescheduled our first 2 in-person events, and we are excited to have been able to plan this virtual event. So on October 20th, we will have this first virtual event. It's 2 weeks before the election, and it's 2 weeks from today. And it will feature a discussion between journalists Peggy Noonan and Eugene Robinson, and they represent both sides of the political aisle. The conversation will focus on the history of the presidency and our democracy and how it appears to have evolved this election season. And the conversation will be moderated by Dean Gillespie. It'll be at 7:30 p.m. on October 20th, and pre-programming will begin at 7:30. And so it's free for students, faculty, and staff members. This event will be produced by a production company called Live Events Media Group. So it'll be as easy to access as a Zoom, but we're working with the production company to make it more of an enjoyable viewing experience with a platform called vMix. So that's kind of the summary. We hope that you all might register and help spread the word among your fellow students. The registration link is go.wfu.edu/face-to-face. I can put that in the chat here in a moment. You can also follow along on social media. We are at face-to-face WFU. Dr. Hatch sent out an email trying to spread the word this morning about the event. And so we hope that we might have a lot of students attend. I'm happy to answer any questions about the program as a whole or this specific event on the 20th. Yeah, and if not in this meeting, I'm also happy, you can email me too. I'll put my contact information in the chat as well.
Thank you so much.
Questions?
Does anyone have questions? If so, can you just put up the raise hand function so I can see that? Any questions? All right, if there are no questions, I will make sure that if we get any later tonight or anything like that, we can get them to you, Susan. But thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, and again, don't forget to register. It's really simple and it's free. So hope you all will join us.
Do it. The biggest advice I ever hear from anyone who graduated from a university is that they wish they had utilized these types of things more. So everyone should go.
Hopefully you will. All right. Thanks all. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Okay, everyone. Hi, we will get back to our normal agenda now. Before we move on to the new business, that is the piece of legislation, Miles is gonna just explain something briefly and then I'll finish up explaining before we get to the legislation.
Yeah, thank you, Ellie. So good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. So just real quick, before we go into the legislation. Hope everybody from last year, who was here last year, remembers Dee Wang. I love Dee. So it turns out Dee was an elected senator in the spring. However, our records do not reflect that he was elected / that he was not on the listserv / like in our group chats. So that was a mistake on our parts. So to that end, he's not here right now at Wake's campus. So he's back in China, essentially. So Allie and Judiciary and the parliamentarian are working together to find a solution for him. They went over all the resolutions and bills with him, I believe, last evening. And I know Allie's going to give more on that situation, but I just want to let you all know that that was a mistake. And Dee is an elected senator, not appointed. Just he's simply an elected senator, and he will be involved in this process, but in a process very different from us. So, Allie, if you want to explain that a little bit more.
Thanks, Miles. So just to clarify once again, he was elected in the spring. His, in the list of elected senators on our website that PR posted, and just some translation error must have occurred with the record keeping on that end. But so we connected with Dee, and I want to thank the Judiciary co-chairs and Vivian and the Speaker Pro Tempore Braden for spending the time to really work through this process, because Dee has the right to vote and to be present as a senator, and that hasn't been necessarily afforded due to the mix-up. And so we've worked out with Dee a process that he's comfortable with, given the time difference and the fact that it's October and everything else that's going on. We're sharing this with you all now just to clarify one really specific point, which is that he cannot attend Senate due to the time difference. He has a class that ends at 4:30 a.m. his time, and it's 7 a.m. right now for him. So this would just be dreadful if he had to wake up and come to this. That said, he is an elected senator and he's still enrolled at Wake Forest University, and so he has his position, as is his right. And we, after talking, myself and Miles and the Judiciary co-chairs and Vivian and Braden, and speaking to Dee, agree that the perspective he has as a student enrolled at Wake Forest who is not from the United States and is not on campus right now, that perspective is really, really important when we're voting on legislation. And so though he cannot vote on legislation if he is not in the Senate meeting, we have all agreed that he can still provide his thoughts for debate and discussion. The way he'll do that is he's going to email them to me in advance of the Senate meeting. And then Sebastiano, the Judiciary co-chair, will read them on behalf of D during debate and discussion, just so that you know. We just wanted you to be aware so it's not confusing, that if Sebastiano is speaking on behalf of D, he'll say that's what he's doing. That won't happen tonight, but it might happen throughout the rest of the semester. So we just wanted you all to be aware of that situation. And to clarify on that point, if anyone has questions or concerns or anything regarding this, please feel free to reach out to me at any point and we can chat about that a little bit more, but that's just that situation. So with that, we can move on to our legislation for today, which is Senate Resolution 6, I believe. Off the top of my head, yes, SR 6. I'm going to share screen and allow the co-sponsors to read through. Oh, hold on. Now I'm going to share screen and allow the co-sponsors to read through it and then give their explanation as to the background. Would any of the co-chairs who are co-sponsoring this like to read through it?
No, sure. I'll go for it.
Thank you, Braden.
All right. Whereas on November 3rd, 2020, a general election will be held and students will have the opportunity to be involved in the election process. And whereas as an institution of higher education, Wake Forest is tasked with encouraging civic engagement and voting of its students. And whereas in the spirit of Pro Humanitate, a key facet of which is civic engagement, we are called to use our knowledge, talents, and compassion to better the lives of others. And whereas compared to peer institutions, Wake Forest falls remarkably short when it comes to voter turnout. In the 2016 presidential election, 73.2% of Wake Forest students were registered to vote, but the voting rate was only 41.1%. And whereas designating November 3rd as a day of civic service would promote voter turnout and civic engagement in the spirit of Pro Humanitate and send a vitally important message to the student body. Therefore, be it resolved, Election Day, November 3rd, 2020, should be designated a day of civic service at Wake Forest. 2, faculty are encouraged to select one of the following options in lieu of synchronous class on November 3rd, 2020. A, cancellation of class. B, asynchronous class, canceling synchronous class such as Zoom, WebEx, Google Meet, in-person meetings, etc., and substituting those with recorded lectures or other methods of asynchronous content deliverance. C, cancellation of one class during the early voting period with a note to students that class is being canceled so that they can vote in the general election. D, excuse absence from class on November 3rd, 2020 in order to vote, register to vote, or participate in university-sponsored civic engagement activities. 3, upon its passage, the resolution shall be distributed to the office of the Dean of the College, the Faculty Senate, and all academic department chairs in both the Undergraduate School of Business and College of Arts and Sciences. 4, the attached proposal shall be included as an extra material with the resolution upon its passage. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you, Braden. I will briefly explain this, and then if any of the other co-sponsors would like to, I will hand them the floor. But so this is co-sponsored by myself and Drew as the co-chairs of the General Election Advisory Task Force that we formed earlier this semester, and then Braden and Ava as the co-chairs of the Academic Committee because it's an academic issue, and Ethan and Sebastiano because it's related to civic engagement and judicial processes. So we all put our heads together, and after talking to the OCCE, kind of established that one of the biggest barriers to Wake Forest being as civically engaged as possible is that election day is a day of classes. And so we really wanted to encourage students at Wake Forest to be engaged in the election process, in the democratic process. We have spoken to a number of professors about this, and as well as Dean Gillespie and a number of other administrators. And the consensus at that point was as long as professors were given autonomy and options, and it was still left in the hands of the faculty members, that with such a short turnaround from October to November 3rd, this would be something that was beneficial and set a good precedent for the future. So that's the mindset here. We're not flying blind in this, but if any of the other co-sponsors co-sponsors wanted to speak to this, then I now hand over the floor to you.
I'll just add one thing to what's already been said, which is that the extra material attached to the resolution is the report I alluded to last week in the Judiciary Committee report. That report more or less echoes the sentiments in this resolution, but just provides additional research as to why this would be a good idea. So if you'd like to see that, that's been attached to the agenda by Caroline, but if you have any questions regarding that, I would be happy to take those tonight or at a later date if you do have those.
All right, thank you. Ethan, any other co-sponsors? All right, then we will move into questions on the resolution. This is just to clarify the situation, not necessarily debate it. I will set a timer for 2 minutes. I'm just going to, before I do that, remind everyone of their options and what the process is. I know this is only the second time for the freshman senators. So we're going to do 2 minutes for questions, 3 minutes for debate and discussion. I'm going to ask everyone to please limit your comments to 30 seconds or less if you in both the question and debate and discussion section. I will limit you if you do not limit yourself, but hopefully that won't be a problem. If at any point you think we don't have enough time on the clock and you would like to add more, you can motion to extend debate and discussion or extend questions. And you can just say I motion to extend by and then insert the time there, which we will vote on. At any point during this process, you could also move to the previous question and push us to voting. If you move or make a motion, we will do a roll call vote or a voice call vote, sorry, which will just be the raise hand function in the participant section. And then when we vote on the legislation itself or on any amendments that might be proposed, we will do a roll call vote, which will be Caroline saying your name, and then you vote yes, no, or abstain. Those are the public votes, the ones that are yes, no, abstain on the resolution itself. So with that, I'm setting a timer for 2 minutes. Does anyone have any questions on the resolution? Yes, Dave.
My question is, do any of our peer institutions have this planned, or have they done that in the past?
Ethan, would you want to answer that?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So in formulating the report that I did attach to this resolution, I worked with a number of college campus voting groups, one of which was Stanford and other University of California schools. They have all implemented similar measures and they have done so successfully. Based on that success, I was encouraged and drafted a report. And in addition with the efforts of the other co-sponsors, we thought it would be a good idea to introduce this.
Any other questions? You can also feel free to come off mute if you have a question. If any of the other co-sponsors also wanted to add to Dave's question, you can do so. But
I would just say in general, something else that I've noticed is there have been a lot of calls on social media from other institutions, students at other institutions, to have something similar. I've not seen anyone at Wake yet. It's not to say it hasn't happened, but like there's students from around the country that are calling on it. And it's also worth mentioning that athletics is having a mandatory day off all practices. I know all games practices that day to allow their students to go vote.
any other questions on the legislation?
I just have a question if that asynchronous class delivery option, so option B, would still be due on election day, like when we get the chance to go off of school, because I'm wondering if that makes any difference if delivery is synchronous or asynchronous, if the work is still due.
Sorry, that was just my timer. To answer your question, that is ultimately the decision of the faculty member for your class, but the goal would be to offer those materials so that you can do them on your time, essentially because polls are only open for certain hours. And so if your class is held in the middle of the day and you have 3 classes, for example, that doesn't leave you time to vote. So the goal would be that you have those materials available for the duration of that day or for multiple days. And then you can decide when to do that class and also decide when to go vote if needed. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Since that timer just went off, I'm going to move into debate and discussion on the resolution. I'm setting a timer for 3 minutes. A reminder, you can motion to extend the debate if you would like to by just saying I motion to extend debate and discussion by insert amount of time here. When the timer runs out, I will only allow those to speak who have already had their hands raised. So with that, please use the raise hand function if you would like to debate. I'm starting a timer now. Anyone debate and discussion?
Move the previous question.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, those in favor, please do the raise hand function. So for the freshmen, I know you haven't done this yet. This is just saying you want to move to a vote. You're not actually voting on the legislation itself. If you go to participants and you click on yourself, you should be able to do the raise hand function. Everyone does have to do this. Once Caroline has counted them, I will lower all your hands, so please don't try to lower them yourselves. Alrighty, I will lower all the hands. We will move into the vote on the legislation itself. Please remember your options are yes, no, and abstain. A yes is in the affirmative and it's saying you would like this resolution to pass. A no is in the negative and you're saying you would not like this to pass. An abstention is counted for your attendance, but is not a vote in favor of or against this resolution, and it's not counted in the total vote count for the purposes of establishing a majority. And this vote is public on the website. So just keep that in mind. Caroline will now do the roll call.
Okay, Dan,
Yes.
Edna, Edna. Okay, I'll go back to her. Nancy Walker,
Yes.
Meredith,
Yes.
CJ,
Yes.
Isaiah,
Yes.
Pilar,
Yes.
Chi,
Yes.
Ethan,
Aye.
Khalil,
Yes.
Ava,
Yes.
Brooke,
Yes.
Robbie,
Yes.
Sebastiano,
Yes.
Edwin,
Yes.
Amber,
Yes.
Michael Burstein,
Yes.
Marion,
Yes.
Jess,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Dana,
Aye.
Will, Michael Walsh,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Rory,
Yes.
Gabby,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Vivian,
Yes.
Braden,
Aye.
Gabby,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Caroline Dixon,
Yes.
Uma,
Yes.
Kanisha,
Yes.
Emma,
Yes.
Tanya,
Yes.
Sydney,
Yes.
Mackenzie,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Armand,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
Abby,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yes.
Jacob,
Yes.
Mariama,
Yes.
Edna,
Yes.
and then Will.
Yes.
Okay. That's all.
All right, the resolution passes. So thank you, everybody, for that. We will make sure that this gets distributed to the relevant offices. We will now move on to the rest of our agenda. So we will move into executive reports. Miles, would you like to begin?
Yes, sorry, y'all. Okay. You know, mom called, so gotta answer the phone. So just a few updates from my meeting with Vice President Rue and meeting with the provost. So this morning I met with the provost. I'll go in that order, so because that's easier. So I met with the provost this morning. They're thinking about, they just want to gather more feedback on students and in-person classes, because that's what they're deciding in the next few weeks, as we talked about with the resolution last week. So that's something that to consider. And for the people, actually, as a matter of fact, for the people who kind of disagreed with the resolution last week, I'd love to get your feedback and your kind of ideas going forward on that, because what the provost does not want is to run into a situation where there's a, based on surveys that they've taken from the ODOC and other offices, what they do not want to do is run into a situation where there are students who obviously have these concerns, but they didn't get their concerns heard. So if you want to reach out to me about that, that would be awesome, so that I can facilitate that back to the provost. Anyways, if there's any other updates, I think he's sending me some more information about next semester, so I'll keep y'all updated on that. And then from my meeting with Vice President Rue, a lot of updates, a lot of good updates here. So Sneeze Safe, hopefully everybody got an email or this morning, should have got an email today or got a text message from Sneeze Safe saying you haven't done your Sneeze Safe in a while, unless you are a person that does your Sneeze Safe every day. So the reason why that's so kind of late in the game is because there's a lot of dirty data. International numbers was one. They could not identify the international students. Second was a lot of students started using their personal emails. So they had to switch over to their student emails. But now that they got all that figured out and situated, there will be kind of some consequences, I think, coming forward. And I think some deans are looking into accountability measures. So they're still learning and refining the practice of Sneeze Safe. So just stay with them on that. And then they were able to contact Campus Gas and Earls. UP officers are working with Winston-Salem PD, but Campus Gas is also ensuring that they're holding up their end, so they have security. I think they hired more security there to kick out, students who are just there just for, they can't sit them anywhere at the table. So that's one thing. Also for flu shots coming up or stuff like that, please get your flu shots early. That's what Vice President Rue recommended. / if you have a religious accommodation, please put that through as early as possible as well. We do not want to leave that at the last minute. That's pretty much it from my meeting with Vice President Rue. And then of course to the freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors who came to PLC. Thank you to the co-chairs. Of course, you guys did awesome. And of course to the freshmen, hopefully you got to meet some cool administrators. So I'm happy that you all were able to come. And then lastly, for the speaker series, that's a relationship that I would love to see continue with student government. They do want the speaker series to continue to be student led. So I know Dean Gillespie is leading this one, but they do want the future ones, specifically the ones with Secretary of State Powell and Secretary of State Albright, to be kind of student led. So if any of you all are interested in kind of being part of that, just let me know. I'm pretty sure they'll be reaching out again once that information comes out more so in the spring. So just let me know if you are interested in kind of being a moderator / a panelist with them in the future. But I will be communicating with them more so because that relationship is good for us going forward. So yeah, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions for Miles's report?
Miles, if we had concerns about last week's legislation, would you prefer we just email you? Do that?
Yes, please. But if you want to meet in person more so, I mean, I'm open to meeting in person as well. But if you want to email me, that's fine. That's just fine. But I can just send that off to the provost as well.
Any other questions for Miles's report? All right, we're going to put a pin in this for a second. It has come to my attention that there are 2 senators on the same computer, so one of them was not called for a vote on the last piece of legislation. Caroline, can you just call Aria and record her vote?
Come on, Aria.
Sure. Aria?
Yes. I'm sorry. I'll make sure to be on a different computer next time.
It's okay. No worries.
Sorry, everyone. Just had to make sure that was recorded. Moving on to my report then. Hey everyone, super exciting stuff. Thanks for the legislation today. I'm going to work backwards up my slide. I'm pretty excited about what this will entail. We're also prepping to promote early voting, so stay tuned. That'll be some kind of social media campaign. We still have to connect with the OCC more about what that looks like, but just stay tuned on that. I'm continuing co-chair check-ins. I have 2 this week, and then I'll have the final 2 in the following weeks. So senators, just know that I'm being updated on all the wonderful things you're doing. We are also looking to schedule more guest speakers. I spoke to a few administrators and staff members from different offices during PLC who are really, really excited about the potential to come to Senate. So if you would like to hear from a specific organization or office on campus, please, please, please send me a text or an email. We will try to get that on the schedule. I would hate for things to fill up before we have a chance to hear from all the wonderful offices. So let me know if you have anyone you would like to hear from, and then we can set that up. And then finally, working with Judiciary on a process packet that will come out to you guys next week. It'll include lots of good stuff like our governing documents, the organizational flow chart of what to do when, how to write legislation. And so for our newest senators, that'll be really, really helpful for making sure that you always know what you need to do and you feel like you know what's going on. So that is all for my report. Does anyone have any questions? Alrighty, then we will move on to Victoria's report.
Hi guys, I don't have much. I'm just continuing to plan the annual budget cycle now that we have the academic calendar for spring 2021. And I'm also working on reviewing how program report processes and budget training modules are going to work since everything's going to be online.
Thank you, Victoria. Does anyone have any questions for Victoria's report? All right, then we'll move on to Caroline's report.
Hi everyone. I'm just following up on some connections I made during PLC, and I'll be meeting with the assistant director of the program for leadership and character at Wake Forest, who is Elizabeth Pierce, and we'll be talking about how to bring in aspects of sustainability and environmental issues into future programming for leadership and character. So I'm excited to make that connection and talk more about that. Feel free to reach out if you have any ideas or concerns that you want me to bring up.
Anyone have any questions for Caroline's report? All right, then we'll move on to Drew's report.
Well, good evening, everyone. Well, first, thank you for an amazing PLC. Thank you to the co-chairs for engaging in the freshmen. So we have our next round of appointments. The email announcing the application will be going out tomorrow morning. Other than that, the election is in 27 days. Like Ali said, we're working with the OCC on early voting. I just found out today they're getting a bunch of yard signs directing people to the First Assembly of God right off campus. But early voting starts in about 9 days. But we'll be sharing more content. And then there's an amazing GIF of Miles.
Thank you, Drew. Any questions for Drew? Okay, then we will move on to committee reports starting, or sorry, Tim. Tim, I'm so sorry. Our lovely advisor, Tim, is going to give his report first.
Yeah, right. Thanks.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm frazzled.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Tim.
Good evening.
Hi, Tim.
How are you,
Well done.
Tim?
Well done. You're getting better. That almost felt enthusiastic. Hope you're having a good night. Some updates. I'll jump on the bandwagon. Congratulations on an excellent PLC. Probably the most unusual PLC we've done, but I've heard nothing but kudos, not just because we pulled it off, but because it was done well. So congratulations involved. One of the things I am going to challenge all of you who went to PLC to do is by next week, decide who from PLC you are going to follow up with and meet with at some point, whether it's because you listened to them present or because you did a lap around the quad with them. But one of the great things about PLC is building those relationships, especially with those that you don't normally get to meet with. I had 2 excellent lap around the quads myself. And I am very, very excited that you all are able to build those connections. Let's see, other things I have tonight. So it came out, if you follow the COVID Chronicle, on Thursday night, that we are making some changes in the university's phases for programming. We are moving to a phase, as you know, right now you can only have up to 25 people for an outdoors event. We are moving to allowing it to be up to 100 people. Now, wow, Jess Schmidt was really excited by that. Jess Schmidt was like, whoa. We are working through the details right now. The decision was made on Thursday, so now we're figuring out what that means. Our event planning protocols won't change. You'll still have to go through event planning. We're just working through some of the details, such as you can only have, that's only going to be at certain fields. So Hearn Plaza, Manchester Plaza, Poteet Field, areas that can accommodate it. You're still going to have to go through event planning. Some of our training will change. Some of the expectations will change. But if you've been working on an event or thinking about an event that you want to do outside, you can now think about it in terms up to 100 people. So I would say you can start setting up event planning, and we'll have the details figured out in the next few days. One other very important distinction: please make sure everybody understands that this is still registered events with us. This is not now we can have 100 people off campus. That has not changed. So I just want to make sure the rumor mill is not running amok with that. I will stop for a second and see if people have questions.
Any questions for Tim?
All right, I will keep going. Let's see. The resolution that just passed, just a reminder, make sure that as word of that gets out, I mean, it's a good resolution. I'm excited for you all. Make sure students understand that it's a resolution that you're passing up. That is, this does not now mean students can just miss class to go vote. I mean, I believe in it as much as you all do. Just make sure that as word of that is getting out, that you're communicating with your constituents to make sure they understand that. It's just a thought I had today when I was looking. One of the things I want to make sure, raise your hands if you know what the COVID consultants are. All right, I only see, of those of you I can see, I only see about 4 of you. Well done, Pilar and Ethan. So the COVID consultants are a group of undergraduate and graduate students who are meeting with the well-being office to think through how COVID affects the student population. And I don't mean physically, I'm talking about the challenges that we're having just as a community. I've been invited to meet with them. The meeting is 6 o'clock on Tuesday. One of the things they want to talk through is continuing to think about how students are finding engagement and belonging on campus. So I'm most likely attending next Tuesday. I would love for a few members of student government to go with me so we can have a dialogue with them and bring it back to student government. I have some thoughts as to who that should be, but Miles, I'm going to ask you and the exec and the committees to talk about which committee you think that should fall to. Again, it's 6 o'clock on Tuesday, so obviously availability matters. But if you could all talk about that, I would appreciate it. By the way, did you all realize yesterday was halfway through day? Congratulations, you made it halfway through. I'm wondering if things like the SneeSape app, if there's still confusion, is that something for student government to continue to educate on and push out to help students understand the importance? Because again, we're doing great and we need to figure out how to capitalize on that. So just something to think about. Lastly, let me find Dave Myatt on here. Dave Myatt, are you here?
He is.
I'm here.
There you are. Did you get my answer to your constituent concern yesterday?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
So are we squared on that, or do I need to talk about that?
Oh, no, we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. That's all I have this week.
Does anyone have any questions for our lovely advisor, Tim? And Tim, I know you joined a hot second after I said this, but we did speak to Dean Gillespie earlier today about the resolution and have also clarified what this means for faculty members, and there's a consensus there. So just so that you know that.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that.
Any questions? Alrighty, then we will move on to committee reports. Academic.
Hey everyone. So we're also gonna hop on the bandwagon. We had a great PLC and hope you did too. We're trying to set up more regular meetings with Provost Kirsch, and we also shared the resolution that we passed last week with him. Miles spoke a bit about that earlier. We also worked with Judiciary and the Elections Task Force on the resolution that passed today, so that's great. On Friday, we're meeting with the academic affairs group that we're in. For you freshmen that haven't heard about this, Ava and I are in a group of people like us at other similar schools to Wake. And then we talk about what's happening at our respective schools and then get ideas for new initiatives. So we have that Friday. And we're also planning a meeting with D&I and faculty members that have reached out to us discussing reshaping the cultural diversity requirement. That's an ongoing process that's been going on for a couple weeks now, and it will continue into the future. Ava, do you have anything?
That's all.
Any questions for the academic committee? Thank you so much, guys. And I'm going to start keeping account. There's Provost Kirsch, High Administrator 1, because I was really excited about the committees, but you'll see in a second. Campus Life, would you like to give your report?
All right, here's administrator number 2. So at President's Leadership Conference the other day, we had good talks with Vice President Rue, and we're planning on starting regular monthly meetings with her. And if there's anything campus life-wise to do with anyone that anyone has any concerns about, please let us know and we can bring it up to her whenever we meet with her.
Anything to add, Annie?
No, I don't have anything.
All right, any questions for Campus Life? Okay, we will move on to D&I.
Like Brayden already talked about, we're working with faculty on the cultural diversity requirement and looking at some proposals that some other faculty have sent us just to get student feedback. If you're interested in any of that or just want to take a look and give some feedback, please reach out to Umar or I.
Thank you. Just to point out, there is a high-level administrator number 3 here. They meet with Dr. V already. Does anyone have any questions for D&I? No? Okay, Judiciary.
Hello, everyone. So just a few things this week. We're starting the appointment process review. We formed some subcommittees, which I'll speak on in just a moment, but they are specifically looking into this with Sebastiano and I's guidance. We're also hoping to work with the Diversity and Inclusion Committee to get their input as well. And also a quick shout out to Drew for attending our meeting last week and providing his input. We'll go over timeline on that in a second. Code of conduct is still in process, meeting on October 14th. We are in the process now of taking preliminary action on a democracy week. More about that in a moment. And then just some miscellaneous items. We're rescheduling the archival review process and co-chair review for November, given our scheduling conflicts. And then just as a quick thing on the subcommittees, one of my big things coming into this role as judiciary co-chair was to empower individual senators to take action. That is why we've started subcommittees. We have formed 2 subcommittees who will be meeting with me and Sebastiano. The first is the Democracy Week subcommittee, and the second is the appointment process subcommittee. The Democracy Week subcommittee is composed of judiciary members Sydney and Vivian. We're all working on the Democracy Week stuff. Today, Sydney met with the OCCE, so I'm going to yield a portion of my time to her so she can briefly recap that meeting.
Yeah, I met with 2 members of OCCE today. They gave us a lot of great feedback and additional ideas for working through Democracy Week, helping us provide materials whenever we're like creating our courses or whatever. And they're going to get back to us with some more materials that they're compiling from their resources. But overall, the idea was really well received.
Thanks, Sydney. And just to give take a step back for a moment, Democracy Week is an initiative that Judiciary has been working on and off again for the past month or so, but now we're actually starting to take actions to make it a reality. In essence, it would involve us working with the Winston-Salem community to promote democratic values, American history, and other related things. So more details on that to come, but that's just a brief overview. And then the appointment process subcommittee is going to be conducting research into best hiring practices, as well as incorporating elements conducive to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we will present those findings before the larger committee on the 21st, hoping to get that to the Senate by November. And then just finally, some shout outs. I thought there was a great remark by Provost Kirsch this weekend at PLC, where he said that we are a very action-centric generation and often neglect the importance of reflection. So in the spirit of reflection and mindfulness, I wanted to give a shout out to Drew and Miles and Tim for an excellent PLC, not to beat it on a dead horse or anything. And then Sydney for the awesome OCCE meeting today. Thank you all.
Anything to add, Sebastiana?
No.
All right. Thank you, Ethan. This is cool, guys. Does anyone have any questions for Judiciary? All right, then we will move on to our Public Relations Committee.
Hi, everyone. So this week, tomorrow, actually, we're meeting with the Vice President of University Advancement, Mark Peterson, which I think is
number 4.
4. Okay, there we go. Exciting. So we're possibly collaborating with him and his office to work on miscommunication about COVID protocols, and also maybe a volunteer program with students who can help out with lessening the burden that the university has related to like contact tracing, gift baskets, notes, all of that stuff. So we'll have to fill you in next week. And then Brooke, if you want to share the stuff.
Yeah, so we're working on a COVID-19 post just to remind students not to lessen up with their precautions, because we're doing great so far and we just definitely want to keep it that way. We're also going to do like a club spotlight post series that should be coming up soon. Isaiah is working on that. Just to highlight some of the things on campus that, maybe people aren't seeing as much because of everything. And then we're updating the website with freshman senators too.
Does anyone have any questions for PR? All right, then physical planning.
Hey guys, I didn't put this on the slide, but we're meeting with John Wise next week. As we do, and some fun updates. The Freedom Plan is now actually gives students freedom, so that's exciting. And also with the constituent concern about the plastic utensils being in the boxes and being wasteful, they're now having dispensers for those, or they're set to, so that's exciting. And we are also reaching out to parking and transport about some Wakeline concerns, and Res Life about the freshman dorm balconies and rooftops being closed, because a lot of people wanted them opened and wanted to see if they could open them. So Meredith, anything else?
I guess just if y'all have anything that would fall under the lines of like dorms or any constituent concerns dealing with that, feel free to reach out to us so that while we reach out to them about the balconies, we can include all the concerns there are at the moment.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Does anyone have questions for fiscal planning? All right, then we will move on to SOC.
What's up, guys? So we have our report. It's gone out. We're already getting responses. Super good stuff. Stay tuned, hopefully, for good news where we discuss all the positive changes that we can make.
And since we're keeping track of who's meeting with who, we have the best administrator of all, Tim Wilkinson, that we get to meet with. So.
Woo. Go, Tim.
And then we're also addressing some specific constituent concerns regarding some areas of chartering, organizations, events, stuff like that. So yeah, keep sending those folks our way.
Thank you both. Does anyone have any questions for SOC? No. Okay, then we will move on to the rest of our agenda at this point. I'm super proud of all the co-chairs for setting up these meetings with these people. PLC was a success. I know I'm beating a very dead horse at this point. Senate reports. Does anyone have a senator report? Okay. Constituent concerns? Anyone?
Yeah, I had someone reach out to me about when will the upper quad be opened. Have you heard anything about that? Like to be able to sit on the quad? Because right now it's still roped off.
It is, we're wondering the same question. It's been reseeded, which if you were a Wake Forest student last year, you know the quad had some problems with the grass. So they're obviously a little bit sensitive to it right now, but we're trying to get an answer as well from programming. So stick with me on that.
Okay, thanks.
We take the quad grass very seriously here at Wake Forest. Any other constituent concerns? I see Robbie, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, it's less of a question, but someone just wanted me to bring up that they were kind of questioning the actual use of SneezeSafe because you can just easily lie on it. It's literally just pushing a button. So they were just concerned about the fact that like spending their time every morning doing it for something that most people might not truthfully answer anyways.
Robbie, can I address that?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, just going back to the summer, and I know you're just passing along the message. Can you let your constituents know, you know, we expect Wake Forest students to be honest. Otherwise, we're going to reach a point where by using the SneezeSafe app, it keeps us from having a temperature check at events and go through a whole litany of other things. On some level, we've got to expect the best of our students, both in terms of filling it out as well as filling it out properly. So again, I know you're the messenger. If I sound preachy, I don't mean to.
No, you're good. They just wanted me to bring it up, so I did. You're good.
Tell them to be honest.
And if I could just add on, from the meeting with Vice President Rue, she did say that, you know, that there was a case like that somebody had lied and essentially lied all the way through, but then got extremely sick. And then all of a sudden they look back at their SneezeSafe notes and they had lied all the way through, said they were healthy throughout. And then all of a sudden they changed to being sick. But I think that person did get some type of consequence on top of that for missing out, for lying essentially, and then putting other people at risk. So I would just put them on the side of caution of not trying to cheat the system or trying to lie to the system.
All right, thank you. I see Jacob Graff has his hand raised, which confused me for a moment because I thought you raised your hand twice, Robbie.
No, sorry about that. So someone just brought up to me about the kitchens and some of the freshman dorms, especially in the fact that like the expression "too many cooks in the kitchen" kind of implies like social distancing could work there. So I was just wondering if we can make any progress on that. Some students started wondering, like, when we have really late nights and they're up studying, especially with like midterms coming up, it'd be nice to have some food up in there and to be able to go in and out without actually staying. So if they are, and I know our areas were looking forward to like making food for us, and so I was wondering if there was any chance that we could get those kitchens reopened sooner, if there's any restrictions we could put in place to make those socially distancing acceptable. But that was just my question.
Thank you so much. I think physical planning can maybe add that to their thing with the roofs.
Yeah, for sure. We can definitely look into hopefully trying to find a solution where like 1 or 2 people in a kitchen at a time or whatever would be allowed given the space and size of the kitchen.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Tim and Dan are working on the rooftop concern. So they haven't sent that email yet. I guess I would advise y'all to mention the kitchens, but if you have already, that's okay. We'll discuss after Senate.
We haven't sent it yet. We haven't sent it yet. We can send we can include it.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you guys. Thanks for bringing that up, Jacob.
Thank you everyone for that collaboration. Jackson, you have a constituent concern.
Yeah, kind of going off the point about the kitchens, I've had a lot of people come talk to me about how, like, especially as freshmen, they're having like trouble making friends and stuff, like because there's no like lounges and stuff like that. And similarly, like the study rooms are closed in a lot of the dorms, stuff like that, and like lounge areas. So if we could kind of add that also, sorry to kind of pile onto the list. But I don't know if that's like something we would have to like pass a resolution for, if that's something that you'd have to like talk to them about. But I just wanted to also bring that up.
Can I talk about that for a second?
Sure, Tim.
So I can't speak for the kitchens. I can speak so I was part of the group that created the health and safety for student activities protocols. And we're the group that made the decision that the lounges had to be closed. I think it's a conversation we can absolutely have. I just would remind you all to talk to your constituents about one of the challenges we have is, we jokingly say this in our office sometimes, remind everybody that we're still in a pandemic. And part of the challenge we run into is those smaller spaces. There is no way to consistently enforce use of those spaces. So we start to run into, for example, I use the lounges for a second. There's no way to say this lounge has this many members versus this lounge has this many members. This lounge uses it for parties versus this lounge that uses it for just hanging out. We run into kind of the same problem with kitchens as well. And I can't speak to that to the same level of expertise because I don't deal with that as much. But a lot of the decision-making was around smaller spaces just being incredibly hard to adequately enforce when it comes to a physical distancing perspective. So I think it's an important conversation to keep having, and I'm willing to help you all have that conversation. But just keep in mind when you're talking to your constituents that a lot of it has to do with the fact that there is just no way, not just enforce how many people you have in there, but also enforced, is it being cleaned properly? Is it being sanitized properly? So I think it's a good conversation to have. And I think part of that conversation is helping make sure all of you, especially those of you who are new to student government, understand what was the rationale behind the decision in the first place. And I can help, I think a conversation with myself, probably Matt Clifford and Wesley Todd in residence life and housing, and we can paint the entire picture. And then we can talk about how we could possibly move forward. I don't know what the thresholds are, but I think it's worth talking about.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you, Jackson. A great question. Dana, you have a constituent concern?
Yeah, so there were concerns about some of the spaces on campus being used a little bit too liberally. So like outside, like overcrowding the tables and without like proper precautions, like wearing a mask or social distancing. Sometimes there's lots of groups outside that won't be eating, but also aren't wearing masks and aren't social distancing when they're hanging out with their friends. So I was just wondering what could be done about that.
I think preliminarily, I know I've had a conversation with Mr. Wise now a few weeks back about his dedication to making sure like things like the picnic tables are, being safe, but physical planning, if you could perhaps add that to your list of things to bring up, unless Tim has more to add right now.
We can definitely put it on our notes to like add to the meeting next time we meet with Mr. Wise.
Ally, go ahead, Megan. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say yes, we'll definitely mention that, but I know it sounds kind of like what you've heard all along, but if you feel comfortable enough, like maybe just saying like, hey guys, like hate to be that person, but do y'all mind putting on your masks, because our numbers have seriously been so low, and it would be really awesome if we could continue through this whole semester without having to go home and without endangering people of getting sick. Have a great day, thanks, like something like that, because I think people generally will be responsive, and if they're not, you know, you've done what you can, and yeah, there are reporting systems for it, so I would say as just like a everyday sort of thing, that's what I would personally suggest.
Thank you, everyone. Rory, you have a constituent concern?
Yeah, what's up, guys? So I, not on behalf of myself, but there is some concern about the fact that as we move into winter, the days are getting shorter, or at least late fall, the days are getting shorter, you know, a little darker, whatnot. Things get a little colder, that the outside space usage we might see a pretty sharp drop off. And what gentleman I was talking to had a suggestion. I don't know how feasible it is, but one thing he said was maybe we put up some lights around tents. I know, like Farrell, for instance, there's no lights outside of the tent in front of Farrell. I know because I'm looking at it right now. And they close the inside at 10 o'clock at night. So maybe like if there was some illumination there, it might allow folks to do more work outside after, you know, I think tonight it was 6:58 p.m. that the sun went down. I'm sad that I know that, but I do. And then, you know, in addition, as it gets a little colder, there were some folks who said maybe like some like heat, not like the big standing heat lamps, but the kind that you can attach to like a bar or whatnot, that would allow, you know, some heat to come into those tented areas as well. So again, people could stay outside, but we don't see crowding within dorm rooms or, you know, the limited spaces indoors. So maybe another physical planning thing. It seems like you guys are really winning all these. Sorry about that.
You know what's great? Physical planning has the most members of any committee, so they can do all of these things.
We totally can. Rory, thank you for bringing that up, because I completely agree, especially with everything closing so early. It would be great to have some extra lights in the tents, especially at Farrell, since lots of people like to study there. And yes, it can get cold, so that would be fantastic. We'll bring that up to, I guess, facilities.
Tim, did you want to add? It looks like you're about to speak.
Yeah, I can jump in on this. First, there's trust me when I say we've been thinking about this since pretty much we put the tents out. The challenges are a couple things. One, as we move into the winter months with the tents, we're probably going to have to take the tents down because of concerns around snow. Plus the heaters, trust me, I've asked this question, the heaters are a fire hazard with those tents. But without being cryptic, there's been lots of conversations, and I think we may have some good ideas as to what we're going to be able to do in the winter months. You just need to stick with me for another week to 10 days. But trust me, we asked the tent question. One of my questions was, could we move the Davis Field? So the Davis Field tents aren't lit because if you're out there on Saturday, you know, we had generators because the power situation over there just isn't very good. So I asked the question, could we move the tents over to Manchester, since come wintertime, the Manchester fields become pretty useless. That's when people explain that to me. But we have some potential movement in the works on some things that would help with the winter. So just bear with me for a little bit.
All right, thank you, Tim. And Braden, you have a constituent concern?
Yeah, so my constituent concerns about study spaces, so I want to apologize for physical planning in advance. But I think everyone's familiar with the process where you can book one of the rooms in the academic buildings, and it's done through Deacon Space. So 2 points kind of on that. To do it through Deacon Space, you have to book it 48 hours in advance. And I know a lot of people don't think that far ahead of it in advance when you're thinking about a place to study. And I remember with the library study rooms, you could book it up until the moment you wanted to get in. That and a lot of the rooms are listed with their occupancy. So a lot of them are like 9, 10, 11, 12. When you try to book it and you send your request in, they'll respond and say you can't book the room if you have more than 2 people listed to go into it. So it doesn't make sense why the occupancy is listed as like 10 people, but you're only allowed to have 2 in like a whole classroom. So that might be something to look into.
Yeah, for sure. We can definitely tackle that one too.
Tim,
Would you like me to jump in on this one as well?
go for it.
Right, and the easiest thing probably to do, write an email with all those specifics, copy physical planning on it and myself. I'll forward it to Beth Hoagland, who's in charge of that. I helped with the space prioritization process this summer. We can probably get you the most direct answer right there. So physical planning, I can help you expedite that.
Perfect.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you so much. Jack, you have a constituent concern.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of people come up to me about reopening the balconies, and I know we've already talked about that a little bit, but I just want to know a little bit about like the rationale behind still like keeping them closed. Is it similar to like the rationale behind keeping the common spaces closed because the balconies are like an outside space?
Tim?
You got me about residence hall balconies?
Yes.
That would be my guess. Physical planning, I would email Wesley Todd on that one and copy me on it. I mean, yeah, I think it's safe to say anything that is a small space that is not directly managed, that's the reason behind it.
All right. Thank you, Tim, for all of the advice and wisdom you've given us.
Remember, everybody, seriously, when in doubt, just remind people, and I say this jokingly, we're going to get badges made that say we're in a pandemic. And I know that's hard, but that's what's helped get us this far.
All right. Well, thank you, Tim. Thank you for everyone with the constituent concerns. Sorry, physical planning. We will move on to announcements at this point. That is, if you have a different organization that's doing something, or if you have something personal that you would like to share, now would be the time to announce it.
Dating Deacons is still going strong. Please continue to sign up.
Any other announcements? You can just feel free to unmute if you do.
Allie, can I add one thing that I forgot to bring up?
Of course.
So where's Rory Britt? Rory Britt, show yourself.
He's here.
All right, maybe he walked away. No, I see his dogs. So Rory Britt brought up to us the fact that we have nothing planned for Halloween Saturday night, and he's correct about that right now. Student Union has a crazy amount of programming set up for the next few weeks. Rory Britt also brought up to us the reminder that students don't like to do anything Wake Forest University creates. So student government, I need you to think about what Halloween could look like, and would you potentially take the lead on that?
Life. That's you.
So I didn't want to, I'm not naming names, but Rory gave us good feedback, but I also know there's nothing I can think of that is going to excite you for Halloween night when it's a Saturday. So we have a meeting coming up. Rory, we're actually going to have to move it. But I would love to see some student government members there, because if student government can't figure out what to do on Saturday night, Halloween, no group is going to be able to. We have, that's funny, Miles. Nobody knows what that is, and let's never talk about that again. Student activity fee has plenty of dollars, and there's still plenty of time to set up a quality campus-wide event for Halloween night.
Okay, I'll say it less like this now. Campus life and SOC, can you guys work on that, please, with Tim?
Yeah, I can talk to Rory and see if he can put the.
Thank you, Rory. I'm sure Rory will love that.
I will happily work on that as well.
Okay, thank you, friends. Anything else announcement-wise from anyone? We can sit here then.
Studer.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Anyone opposed to the raised hand function? 3.
Allie?
Yes.
Before you vote, once the meeting's adjourned, let everybody say goodbye, student government, before you cut the Zoom off, because you do that every week.
I'm sorry. Okay. The ayes have it, so we're gonna go. But everyone, you can say goodbye if you would like.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.